Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of Teen Kids News. I'm Reed. We've got a lot to tell you about, so let's get started. Here's our top story. Whether or not you agree that climate change is real, there's no question that our weather has been crazy. Some parts of the U.S. that for years have been facing painful droughts suddenly found themselves facing equally painful rainfall and flooding. But experts warn that the recent record rain probably won't provide permanent relief. So despite having almost full reservoirs today, drought is still a very real concern for the future. And not just in the United States, but around the world. That's why the work by a young scientist in California is so important. Ava tells us more.
In his epic poem, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, Samuel Coleridge wrote the famous lament, "Water, water, everywhere, nor any drop to drink." It's a complaint even more true today than 200 years ago when Coleridge scratched that line on paper with a feather quill. Although 70% of the Earth's surface is covered with water, 97% of all that water is salt water. Only 3% of the world's water is fresh. But, as they say on TV, wait, there's less. Yes, I said less. That 3% of fresh water isn't spread evenly around the globe. Some people get less than they need, a lot less. That's because half of the world's fresh water is found only in 6 countries: Brazil, Russia, Canada, Indonesia, China, and Colombia. Almost 4 billion people don't have access to sufficient fresh water the whole year round. The blame is shared by climate change, overpopulation, and agriculture. And it's a problem that's only getting worse. Many governments and organizations are raising alarms that almost half of our planet is experiencing deadly drought conditions. Right here at home, the lack of sufficient rainfall in the western U.S. came close to causing the worst drought in more than 1,000 years.
It's the most intense level of drought there is.
The state continues to face extreme drought conditions.
Record-breaking temperatures in other parts of Southern California.
Climate change should be one of our very top priorities because otherwise it's just going to get worse and worse.
This clip is from the short film called Generation Impact: The Scientist. It profiles Emily Tianchi. When she was 13 years old, Emily didn't just want to make people more aware of the world's water crisis. She wanted to do something about it. In the documentary, you described yourself as angry.
Yeah, well, climate change is one of the largest sustainers of socioeconomic and gender inequality, and it affects so many people. Women and girls spend over 200 million hours a day trying to find water, and that's just awful, and we should absolutely be doing something because it is angering.
You live in San Diego, and as we just heard, California is often battling severe droughts. Is that why you decided to research this serious global issue?
I grew up in San Diego during a decade-long drought, so we always had to really carefully ration out our water, and I watched every single blade of grass in the near vicinity die out. But even so, our condition is so much better than what so many others have to experience because at the very least, when I open the tap on the water, I know that there's going to be clean water coming out of it that I can drink and use. So yeah, my growing up in a drought inspired me.
You focused on a tree that seems to have special properties?
Yes, the Torrey pine tree, a brilliant, amazing tree that I love very much. Torrey pine tree grows in San Diego and also the Santa Rosa Islands, and it's pretty well known for its ability to turn the fog in the atmosphere into water for itself.
So you decided to investigate how the needles on the Torrey pine collect and store water. And to do that research, you set up a lab. In your garage?
Yes, garage lab. I was really excited about the Torrey pine tree and I wanted to explore it. So I set up just a very makeshift lab, so to speak, in my garage and started playing around with the needle.
And when you say makeshift, you mean you scrounged up a lot of low-tech household items to help you with your experiments. Tell us about some of the stuff you used.
I have my very beloved $20 microscope called Dinky Donk, and it's survived many years of heavy wear and tear, and I still use it to this day. It's helped me really just get inside the needle, and it was super easy to use, and I love it. Also, just a bunch of random things from around the house. Duct tape will always get a job done well. All sorts of books and cups and little trinkets, even straws and whatnot. Used everything that I could get my hands on.
That enabled you to create a prototype, an early model of a device that harvests moisture, like the pine needle. How does it work?
Rentis is the name of my moisture harvesting device prototype, and it copies an essential property of the Tory pine needle in addition to its general structure. One of the biggest properties that I discovered about the Tory pine tree is that the needles are alternating hydrophilic and hydrophobic. And that sounds really complicated, but it's really not. So the needles are water loving as a whole. If you think of a material like cotton or a piece of paper, it soaks in water, and the needles are really similar. But it also has stripes on the needle that are hydrophobic, which are water repelling. So if you think of, say, like wax or a piece of plastic, perhaps, those are hydrophobic because they reject water. And that allows it to condense water really well and also to release water really well. So it has a nice flow to it, so to speak. And I'm trying to copy that in my micropattern device.
Besides working to get your prototype patented, tell us about the organization you started.
Clearwater Innovation is an organization that I founded with my brother, Kyle, and it generates awareness of the global water crisis, and it also encourages students to conduct environmental research from garage labs. So we're an excellent team of students, a lot of whom have experience in garage lab research and are all very passionate about the environment. And you can find more on clearwaterinnovation.org.
Do you think that the global water crisis can be solved? And do you think we teens will play a big role in that?
You know, I think we have no choice but to believe that it will be solved, because if we think that it's unsolvable, no one will have an incentive to do anything for it. We'll give in to despair, and we just simply can't afford to do that when so many people around the world are suffering. And we can't afford to do that when so many people around the world are suffering from a lack of clean water. And because of that, in spite of the challenges, we teens will play a big role. We have the capabilities to do something, we have the great ideas, and we have something meaningful to contribute. So absolutely, teens will play a big role, and we will solve this thing.
Sure hope so. Thanks, Emily.
Thank you so much.
As you heard, Emily set up her lab in her garage. In fact, many famous companies started in garages. For example, Disney, Apple, Microsoft, as well as the company that's funding the Generation Impact series, tech giant HP. Each episode of Generation Impact features a young inventor using technology to make the world a better place. For Teen Kids News, I'm Ava.
We still have a lot more to tell you about. Teen Kids News will be right back.
This report is brought to you by the National Road Safety Foundation.
Every year, the NRSF sponsors a national competition called the Drive to Life contest. This year's assignment: come up with a public service announcement that encourages passengers to speak up if they're with a driver who's behaving irresponsibly.
Our English teacher actually told us about the contest, and she told us how to sign up for it. She made it sound like a really interesting contest, and I had an idea and I wanted to share it. I was so surprised when I got the call.
That wasn't the only surprise in store for Jackie, a recent graduate of Coronado High School in Scottsdale, Arizona. But more on that in a moment. Let's first hear her winning idea.
My idea was showing how teenagers speak up about things like in a restaurant when they get their order wrong, but maybe they're a little bit more hesitant to speak up about their safety in the car.
To turn Jackie's concept into a PSA for TV, the NRSF sent a professional video crew to work with her. Jackie recruited her family and friends to be the actors. As you would expect, the most important role was that of the passenger who has to speak up. And that's when the second surprise came up.
So originally I had one of my friends for that part, but she let me know she just couldn't make it. Some things happened, so I had to step in and take in the main role for the PSA.
A bit camera shy, Jackie wasn't sure if she could handle the role.
Stronger.
Mom, you shouldn't be texting.
Good.
But she was a natural.
Action.
I think you're in our seats.
This is scenes 1A through D, take 15.
Action! There we go.
Excuse me, I asked for no cheese.
Oh, I didn't anyway.
Thank you.
Cut.
Today was really fun, actually. I was a little nervous at first, but everyone was just really kind and welcoming, so it felt really easy to go through the day.
All right, that is what we call in television a wrap. Congratulations.
So I think today provided a unique experience for Jackie. I mean, how many of us get to work with professional film crews and have our vision that we created kind of come to light for everyone? So I think it really helped her with her leadership skills in a different capacity.
Jackie's next challenge is to work on her presentation skills. Because as a part of the contest, she needs to show her PSA to the sponsors of the competition. I'll have that story next week. For Teen Kids News, I'm Katerina.
We've got to take a short break, and then we'll be back with more Teen Kids News. As you're about to see, a state flag can have a lot to say. Here's Flag Facts.
In 1803, President Jefferson made one of the greatest land deals in history. The Louisiana Purchase doubled the size of the United States. Eventually, the area would make up all or part of 15 new states, including Kansas.
Kansas is a flag meant to represent manifest destiny. There are 3 separate images of people on the flag, all moving westward.
Manifest destiny was the belief that American expansion across the continent was both inevitable and justifiable.
In the foreground, you see a farmer plowing his land. Just beyond the farmer, you see a wagon train also heading west. In the background, you see Native Americans hunting bison. There's also a steamboat on the Kansas River meant to represent commerce. Life for the pioneers was not easy, and the state motto is Ad Astra per Aspera, which means to the stars through difficulties, which is certainly a reference to how hard it was to settle the land.
Within the state seal, 34 stars represent Kansas's place as our 34th state.
Above that state seal, there is a blue and gold band meant to reference the French and the Louisiana Purchase.
And at the very top is the state flower, the sunflower. Believe it or not, in Kansas, it used to be illegal to serve ice cream on cherry pie. I have no idea why. If you know, send us an email at info@teenkidsnews.com. With Flag Facts, I'm Veronique.
It's time for a quick commercial break, but we'll be right back with more Teen Kids News, so don't go away. Ever since the first humans looked up and saw the giant ball of fire in the sky, they've accorded the sun special respect. The light and warmth it gives define our everyday existence. The sun is not only the center of our universe, as Emily tells us, it's central to the practice of yoga.
Joining us now is yoga therapist Brenda Schnabel. Hi.
Hi.
So, what is the sun salutation?
The sun salutation is probably one of the most well-known vinyasas or sequence of poses within yoga. It teaches you patience and perseverance as well as builds body strength and endurance. You want to give it a try?
Sure, let's do it.
All right, walk to the front of your mat.
Okay.
We're going to lift our arms up and bend forward. We're going to step that right foot back into a lunge and then take that left foot back, coming into the top of a push-up called a plank pose in yoga.
Okay.
We're going to come all the way down and then lift up into upward facing dog. Curl those toes and lift up. Push the head between the arms for our downward facing dog. Step or walk that right foot forward into your lunge, followed by that left. Inhale all the way up and come into a little back bend. And then we'll do it again on the other side. So fold forward. Okay. Left foot back. Followed by that right. You're in your plank pose. Lower yourself down. Lift the chest and head. Curl those toes. Come into your downward facing dog. And then step that left foot forward. Followed by that right. Inhale all the way up and back. And exhale those hands back down. You should feel warm
nice.
already.
I do.
You do a couple more of those and now you'll really know what the sun salutation is all about.
That's really great. Thank you. Now, of course, when you do this, don't look directly at the sun or at the sun at all. But I know you knew that. Thank you, Brenda.
You're welcome.
For Yoga and You, I'm Emily.
We'll have more Teen Kids news right after this.
One of the strangest looking creatures in the sea is the octopus. We all know that the typical octopus has 8 arms, but I bet you didn't know that these denizens of the deep have more brains than arms. They have 9 brains. The main one is behind the eyes. Then there are 8 mini brains at the end of each limb. The more scientists study the octopus, the more impressed they are with just how smart it is. No doubt they're probably smart enough, if they had the power of speech, to tell us dumb humans to stop destroying their ocean. For Teen Kids News, I'm Brendan.
That's it for this edition of Teen Kids News. Thanks for watching. See you again next week.